Hello, hello! It's Audrey and it's day 9 of the Summer Scrappin Series. Welcome back and thank you for being here. Today my guest is Elsie Robinson, and she's just an artist. She really is. You've got to go check out her channel and what she can do with her hand-drawn images and how she transforms them into amazing layouts. So today I am using this cut file from the Paper Issues store. And I just wanted to use these little fish, so I traced those, and the little fish have like a little line inside of them to make it look like fins, and I didn't want that. I just wanted a solid fish shape, so I deleted the lines that make up the fins, and I want a whole bunch of fish for this page, so a whole school. So I am just resizing them to different sizes, and I'm going to cut them out of a lot of different patterns. So I'm going to create kind of a cluster of different size fish up here in the corner, and I'm trying to squeeze them in so they can all fit. And if you look carefully, I'm trying to squeeze it into about a 4x3 area. And my plan is to cut out a whole bunch of different pattern papers that are 4x3, and then I'll have lots of colored fish to choose from. So you might remember that I tried to use some of this paper on another page. I can't remember what page it was right now. So one of the Summer Scrappin pages, and a lot of these papers are coming from the June Bug collection from Basic Gray, and it's a very, very busy collection. And I had said in my video that this collection would probably best be used in little bits so that the patterns weren't so overwhelming. Some of these pattern papers too are from Fancy Pants, an old nautical line from Fancy Pants. So I'm just picking a whole bunch of colors and patterns. That blue piece of paper in the top right I aligned so that the blue would kind of look like scales. So there's all my different shapes, while those are pieces of paper rather. While those are cutting on my silhouette, I am going to apply some clear gesso to my white cardstock because I am going to do some mixed media in the background. So I started adding some teal with the packaging technique, and I'm using a sea foam over the top. I'm going for a very watery kind of lake ocean look. And I wanted it a little bit more blurred and I'm going to say foggy. That's not the word I'm looking for. Smeared, I guess. So I'm going through with a gelato and some water and kind of smudging it in over the mist. And the gelatos, when you smear them, actually they give a much different look than the mists when the mists are used with the packaging technique. I'm going to blot that off a little bit because I don't want it too dark. And I'm going to start taking off my fish. Now, my cutting mat is terrible, and some of the pieces of paper actually came off the mat while it was cutting, so I didn't get all the pattern papers. And I was going to go back and cut them, but I cut them out of the papers that didn't get cut. But I thought, let me just see what I have first and see how these fish are working. So I love that polka dot paper there that I'm working with. That's from the Basic Gray collection. I thought it was perfect for these fish. So I'm just going to start laying out these fish wherever and trying to kind of spread out the color a little bit. And I really like how this is looking. I get not worried, but I start thinking, I'm not sure how these patterns are going to look on this page, and I hope it works okay. And sometimes all you can do is hope and then work with what you have. But I was really happy with how these came out, and I was happy with the patterns I used too. I think it was important for this to use smaller scale patterns because a pattern that was too large of a scale wouldn't show up on the fish. So, and again, I used a mixture of pattern papers and solid papers too, because I think you need the little bit of rest with your eyes to have a solid color in there. So a little tip when you're using lots of shapes, lots of die cut shapes, and you want to mix up some patterns, throw in a couple solids too, because that will help. Just won't make it as busy. I decided to omit the orange. I didn't really like the orange. However, the back of one of these papers, so I just flipped the fish over. It's the same shape, and it had a star, or not star, sunshines in the back. So that made those sunfish. Get it? I didn't plan that, but I thought that was kind of quirky. Okay, so I have taken some mixed media sheets here. These are the lightweight sheets, and they're from ThermoWeb. And I wanted to use this to kind of soften up the edges of the photo, and I thought I would add a little tint to it and make it blue. So I am going with this old set of watercolors. I mean, look at it. It's pretty much gone. Actually, these are my kids' watercolors. These aren't even ones I use for scrapbooking, but they're the ones I found in my cupboard, so I'm just going to use them. I should probably throw this away, but I can't throw anything away. So I'm just going to lightly go over that with a couple different shades of blue, and it dries very quickly. I do use a little bit of a heat gun to help dry it off a little bit faster. So while that's dry, I'm going to go ahead and just glue these fish down because I like how they're laid out, and I know if I move this around too much, they're going to get messed up. So I'm happy with this. I'm not going to fiddle around with it too much. You see I have already spaced out kind of the colors and the sizes, and I have some overlapping, and that's fine. Some of these fish I know I'm going to pop off the page because I wanted to add a little bit of depth. So get it depth with the fishing. Anyway, so I'm going to leave some of them unglued, and then I'll come back and pop those off with some foam squares. I'm full of it today. Okay, so my next step here after I get all these little fishies on is I am going to try to do something with my photo. You can see under the photo there I have put like a little cluster of fish. I thought I was going to keep that there. That's what I had in my original design, but I kind of like just most of the fish kind of clustered over to the right. So I am going to take off the fish on underneath the photo there. So now what to do? Oh yeah, let me go through with some splatters because you can't have an underwater scene without some blue splatters. So I'm going to splatter some mist. A lot of times I splatter on my background and then put my pattern papers on the top, but I felt that splattering over these fish was totally fine because it would be like little bubbles. And I do go through with some white too. You don't really end up seeing the white as well in the finished product, but you can see it here and there, especially on some of the fish pattern papers. But I love how that's looking. So this mixed media sheet has dried, and right away I can tell that I don't like it. I don't like that. I was considering doing a line down the page like this, and then having my photo. Yeah, I'm putting something there to ground my photo, like this strip, and I don't like that. I feel like it's too cut off. So I don't like the strip there. It breaks up the mixed media background, and I kind of like how the background is flowing. So instead of using that piece as a strip, also I don't like the color. I think it blends in too much with the background. I'm going to add a little bit of citron to it and some navy, just to kind of bring in, you know, a little bit of highlights to it, and lowlights, I guess, and put that around my photo and use it as a border around my photo instead of a strip down the middle. I considered matting it in a bright color like orange, but I thought that broke up the flow, so I'm just going to tear these pieces into little strips and kind of make a frame around the photo. And I love how this came out because it kind of reminds me, the color kind of reminds me of like murky green water with seaweed. And speaking of seaweed, I had thought about this and I forgot to put it in. I was going to die cut out some little pieces of seaweed out of green pattern paper and put those along the bottom or over my photo or something, and I totally forgot to do that, but that would have been cute too. But maybe some other time on another page. So I added a couple layers of washi tape to the top and the bottom of the photo just to kind of frame it again. I have that kind of lighter colored washi tape is just a kind of a clear washi tape with anchors printed on it. It's super cute. And then a blue stripe. And I pulled out a few kind of sayings and stickers and labels to put around my photo. And this label, I liked it, and it had the little red border. That's from that Basic Gray Adrift collection, but it was a little, it matched the color of the fish perfectly, but I felt like when I put it on the photo, it kind of took away from the colors of the fish. So I put it under the washi tape to help soften the boldness of the red a little bit. And I'm just going through, I go through this stuff for quite a while. I didn't want to over-embellish the photo because I didn't want to take away from the fish design. So I'm just looking for little things to put you know, just around the photo. And I don't really do too much else to the photo. So this is a little bit of a struggle for me because I'm also thinking about where I want to put my journaling and my title. And I had envisioned putting my title on the top and my journaling on the bottom. But you'll see that that changes a little bit. So I go back and add these fish on because that was my original plan. I wanted to see how they looked once I had my photo kind of framed. And I decided that, yeah, I didn't like having the fish over there as well because, again, like I had said earlier, it didn't work earlier and it still doesn't work now. So I take a lot of the fish, those little fish off. So I thought, okay, let me just go put my title on and I'll see how the bottom looks. And I was looking for yellow thickers on a previous page. I think it was my bike riding page. And of course, here are some yellow stickers in this basic gray collection. I really like these stickers. I love the font of them. So super cute. And I love navy too. I don't have very many navy alphas. I should get some more. So here's my problem with the title. I like the title over the top, but you can't see the G. And that bugged me for this page because it was a kind of a shorter title, and not being able to see the G is just a little bit of an issue. So I end up switching the title out and putting it on the bottom. But I'm adding a kind of a label on the bottom here to put my journaling. And these little strips are starting to bug me because I'm pushing them all around. So I'm like, why don't I just adhere these down finally? So I just use some, a tape runner. I use a tape runner for these to adhere them to the back of the photo because I think that these sheets stick better with the tape runner at first. I mean, the mixed media liquid glue does hold them down, but definitely if you want a quick, you know, a quick glue, the tape runner works the best for those mixed media sheets. So here is my journaling spot, my label for that. And then I'm going to start layering some of these other things. And I really wanted to include that little splish splash sticker, but I didn't know where to put it. And then I thought maybe adding just a couple fish around here. I had a little red one and a little polka dot one. The polka dot ones are my favorite, I think, out of all these patterns. I like those ones the best. It kind of reminds me of the story Rainbow Fish, which my kids love that story. So I switched the title down to the bottom, liking that better. You see I did add a couple fish in the top, and that helps. The top of the photo was too empty then once I switched the title down to the bottom. So adding a couple fish in the top worked better. I'm going to pop these fish off with some pop dots. And you know how, so this is a picture of me fishing. So this is funny because this is really, I guess one of the only pictures so far of me, an actual full shot of me for this summer series. So we love to fish, and we fish every summer, and this is my big catch from last year. We catch big bass right off the dock, so it's always super fun to catch big fish. So I thought I would record that. So I'm adding some sequins, some blue sequins and kind of some light green sequins, a whole bunch from Spiegelman scraps, and then I go through my sequin stash, which if you notice my bag of sequins there, it's ginormous. I don't even know what I have, of course. And just scattering some blue and green sequins around to kind of make them look like bubbles. And so I think that that is perfect for the bubbly look. And I think that's pretty much it. And I just go back and add my journaling and yeah, and the date. And here comes my finished page. And there it is. My title, by the way, is like, you know when somebody says, oh, I caught a fish and it was this big. So that's why I came up with my title as this big. I love how this came out. This was so fun. This might be one of my favorite pages from this series just because it's so different and came out just how I had in mind. So I hope you enjoyed this and maybe inspired you to use a whole bunch of different pattern papers and little bits on your page. So thank you so much. Please go check out Elsie's channel, see what she created for today, and I will see you tomorrow for day 10.